I'm Ralph Strauch, and this video provides a short description of a workshop that I'm proposing for the 2019 FGNA Conference titled Functional Integration with Survivors of Emotional Trauma. We often think of Feldenkrais as enhancing the physical dimensions of human experience, balance, ease and fluidity of movement, and the like. But it can also play a significant role in enhancing the emotional dimensions of our experience as well. Emotions are messages we send ourselves about the threats and opportunities that life presents. They manifest themselves somatically as ripples through our neuromuscular organization. They're meant to occur in real time and to fade away as circumstances change. But trauma occurs when the messages overwhelm you and don't fade away, but continue to disrupt ongoing life experience. This workshop will look at how this happens and at how our Feldenkrais tools can assist in healing past trauma and providing functional coping skills for the future. Working with survivors of sexual abuse, war zone post-traumatic stress, and other forms of emotional trauma have been a significant component of my Feldenkrais practice over more than 35 years. I didn't plan it that way, but that's just how it worked out. I'm not a psychotherapist, and I don't see what I do as therapy, but as the application of Feldenkrais perspective to the mitigation of the somatic disruption that trauma causes. This workshop will share lessons I've learned in that process. I will present the paradigm that I use to think about these issues and discuss some of the experiences that led me to that paradigm and some of the lessons that I've drawn from it. I don't intend to teach specific techniques as much as to give participants in the workshop a perspective from which to see and understand the somatic nature of the experiential disruptions that trauma causes, and to suggest directions for their own development if they choose to go in developing competence in this area. Think of life as a stream of events that moves along as it flows around you. You normally experience that flow in real time, continually processing what's happening now as you move on to experience what happens next. The somatic dimensions of that flow include the constantly changing patterns of neuromuscular activity that both reflect and embody your interactions with the world around you. Ideally, you would experience and process each event as it occurs and move on to the next with a clean slate. Traumatic experience, though, can disrupt that process. It can be too unpleasant or frightening to fully process as it occurs, so you end up blocking off parts of the experience, embedding the residue in a protective shell that gets carried into the future as dysfunctional patterns that distort and disrupt your ongoing experience. Feeling is a dimension of perception, just as vision is. But whereas vision takes visual inputs from patterns of light falling on the retina and turns them into visual images, feeling takes proprioceptive inputs, including patterns of tension in the musculature, and turns them into outputs like emotional reactions, or our sense of self, of who we are, of how we move through space, and so forth. These perceptual outputs tell us about what's happening now, and are meant to fade away and be replaced as circumstances change. But the traumatic experience, we may freeze some of the feeling experience, inadvertently locking it in place and so carrying the residue into the future. Healing happens when those locked-in patterns get completed, letting go of the residue that those muscles used and making them available for more productive uses. As practitioners, we can provide a safe and supportive environment where that can happen. That's what this workshop will be about. The workshop will include lecture and discussion, videos of actual sessions, hands-on interactive practices in becoming more sensitive to subtle locked-in patterns of neuromuscular restriction and compassionately supporting its release.